are watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV from Toronto, Ontario. I'm Catherine Bullock. Assalamu alaikum and greetings of peace. The 6th annual Muslim Mental Health Conference is happening this weekend at the University of Toronto. Later in the show, we will talk to one of the organisers, Ibrahim Mohammad. But first, some news headlines. Canada welcomes world delegates at COP15. Uyghur forced labour linked to major car companies. Government defence of human rights inadequate, say advocates. Al Jazeera takes Akleh's killings to International Criminal Court. And now the details. Thousands of delegates from 196 countries have landed in Montreal to join the 15th meeting of the Conference of Parties, or COP15, this week. The 12-day conference will see world leaders discuss policies to conserve nature from human destruction. In a news conference, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced the government's support of $800 million to 4 major Indigenous-led conservation efforts. Environment and Climate Change Minister Stephen Guilbeault was also present at the conference. Protesters have taken to the streets as the biodiversity conference is underway. A large visible police presence can be seen in Montreal following the protesters. A new report titled Driving Force by Sheffield Hallam University Centre for International Justice and Nomo Gaia, a non-government organisation, shows the role of Uyghur forced labour in the manufacturing of automobiles. According to the report, major car makers are involved with suppliers in East Turkestan who rely on Uyghur forced labour to extract metals and make other parts used in cars. Canadian Energy and Power Corps, Canadian Energy Calgary, and Prairie Battery are customers of these suppliers. 13 of the automobile company owners and suppliers referenced in the report, contacted by the report's authors, denied having links with the region or promised to look into it. A media conference will be held tomorrow on Parliament Hill to mark International Human Rights Day. Conference organisers Canadians United Against Hate say they want to bring attention to what they see as Canada's inadequate efforts to defend human rights at home and abroad. NDP Foreign Affairs critic Heather McPherson, the Uyghur Rights Advocacy Project, the University of Ottawa Human Rights Centre, and Canadians for Justice and Peace in the Middle East will be present at the conference. Saleha Farouk, Government Relations Manager from Justice for All Canada, will be speaking at the event. Al Jazeera has submitted the case of slain journalist Shireen Abu Akleh to the International Criminal Court, saying the veteran reporter was deliberately killed by Israeli forces. The media company says it has unearthed new evidence on the death of the Palestinian American shot while covering an Israeli army raid on May 11. Any person or group can file a complaint to the ICC prosecutor for investigation, but the Hague-based court is not obliged to take them on. In a press conference in The Hague, Akleh's niece said they expect the ICC to take action. Israel says it would not cooperate with any external probe into Abu Akleh's death. And that's it for the news. This weekend, the Muslim Medical Association of Canada is hosting its 6th annual Muslim Mental Health Conference at the University of Toronto. To talk to us about the aims of the conference and the issues of Muslim mental health, we are joined now by one of the organisers, Ibrahim Mohammad. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the show.
Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh, Dr. Kathy.
Nice to see you.
It's nice to see you as well.
Now, for those who don't know, Muslim Mental Health Conference, what's it all about?
So essentially what we want to do is bring together the community, bring together mental health professionals and imams, and go over what are the mental health needs of our community, what are the areas that still need work, and use a data-based, evidence-based approach to solving those issues. So we want to bring together everyone from, whether that's a healthcare provider, whether that's a teacher, whether that's just a general community member, to come to the conference, and us all together can help destigmatize mental health care in the Muslim community.
I had a chance to look at the program. It's very packed morning, afternoon, evening sessions, and it looks like there's a mix. There are some for medical health professionals, there's some for the general public. How did you sort of decide what goes where in terms of the sessions?
Yeah, so a lot of work went into this conference, alhamdulillah. So it wasn't just us as the MMAC organizing it. I mean, we wanted it to be a virtual conference so that everyone across Canada and even in other countries would be able to attend it.
Hmm,
And so when developing these sessions, we actually reached out to representatives from each of these communities to ask them like, hey, what do you think we need to discuss? And whether that was, reaching out to parents, being like, what's the area of worry that you have when it
hmm,
comes to the mental health of your child? Or when it came to teachers, what do you see in the classroom that you believe needs to be addressed?
hmm.
And so we had professionals from medicine, from nursing, from other frontline areas of work give us input on what the community actually needs, and that's how we designed the conference accordingly.
You're going to have a whole day or more on those topics, but could you just give us a brief glimpse about what people were telling you? What are our needs?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we were seeing a lot of teachers asking us, we have so-called disturbers in the class where we have children who are running around, who are not paying attention and just disturbing the classroom. And
Mm,
so a lot of teachers were concerned about addressing learning issues in the classroom, addressing ADHD in the classroom. And so that's one of the sessions that we have, inshallah. It will be about, how do we approach learning challenges in the classroom?
mm,
And when it came to parents as well, they addressed that there's a lot of issues that, we try to hide sometimes, that, as a community of parents, sometimes you would keep it hush hush, where if your child is going through something, you're not telling those around you.
mm,
And you try to reach out to, spiritual leaders and mental health professionals, and sometimes the access is limited. And we also wanted to address that. How do we, we have a session about, spiritual parenting and ensuring that we use concepts of psychotherapy and ensuring that, you're able to talk to your child and that your child is also able to get the help that they need.
A couple of the hush hush topics that I suspect you're talking about is one about suicide in the community and another one about eating disorders. I mean, these are definitely topics that wouldn't come up in normal conversation. How do you sort of address those?
Well, that's kind of why we have the conference. It is a stigmatized topic in that we try not to, whether it's because we think it's negative talk or because we don't know essentially how to properly approach it, we tend to avoid the topic altogether. And
Mm,
so the approach that we are taking in this conference is to, specifically for the eating disorders session, inshallah, is to bring together a mental health professional, a religious leader, and somebody with lived experience.
mm,
So, actually having a member of the Muslim community who has gone through an eating disorder and the challenges of it and the treatment of it really helps to ground us into the reality of it. Sometimes we give these lectures and we don't realize about that, this is impactful to real people on the ground. And
mm,
having someone with real experience there tends to, show people that, this isn't just medical jargon. This is actual reality. And this is
mm,
something that I have went through. And
mm.
inshallah, having everyone together on that panel going over it will legitimize it and hopefully help people seek help.
Well, you just used the phrase medical jargon, and this is a conference for, you mentioned for everyone, but there are special sessions for medical practitioners. And I notice you have a very impressive array of doctors and people with PhDs giving presentations. And I noticed two lone imams as part of the program. And I was wondering, what kind of special, unique perspective does the imam bring as distinct from the psychiatrist or the doctor or the person with the PhD?
Yeah, so and that's a very good question. When designing this conference originally, we always tried to make sure that we were featuring both religious scholars alongside the Muslim psychiatrists.
Mm,
A lot of the times, our patients would come to us with certain questions that we might not be qualified to answer as medical professionals. They might be asking us questions about, okay, what is the ruling on this?
mm,
How does my current situation fit within the Islamic context? And we're not qualified to answer that. Alhamdulillah, there's a handful of Muslim mental health care practitioners that have also studied the deen, such as Dr. Rania Awad, but that's unfortunately a minority of the mental health professionals. And it also gives us the opportunity, alhamdulillah, to have the religious scholars sit alongside us. And while we have the medical expertise, they have the religious expertise. And us being together on that panel allows us to combine both of those so that we're really able to, not just address the mental health care of Muslims, but also address their mental health needs in the spiritual context of their faith.
You mentioned, so I have had conversations with medical practitioners about the relationship between Islam and the mental health, the medical field more generally. And I've been told that there's a secular bias and to talk about spirituality as something like very outside. We know that in our community, a lot of people would avoid going to a psychiatrist or a psychologist because they think they're not going to get the proper, quote unquote, Islamic teachings. So are they Muslim mental health providers? Okay, are they mental health providers who happen to be Muslim, or is there some kind of Muslim mental health provision going on? And is your conference exploring that?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. It's one that I ask myself all the time. I'm a medical student in my final year currently, and when we're taught to obtain a history from a patient, there's always going to there's a section for the current presenting illness, a section for the medications, a section for the allergies and social life and whatnot. But there's never really a section that is explicitly for their spiritual life and their spiritual needs. So that tends to be lacking. And you're right, there is definitely a secular bias in the way that physicians are trained. But at the same time, there is a growing body of evidence of kind of combining the spiritual needs of our patients into our medical care. Dr. Farouk Naim is one of the speakers at our conference, inshallah, and he does, spiritually adapted cognitive behavioral therapy. So CBT is one of the most popular psychotherapy frameworks, but Dr. Farouk Naim has a very strong background in adapting CBT to cultural and spiritual needs. And so in that sense, it's not just a psychiatrist who happens to be Muslim, it's a Muslim psychiatrist in that sense. And inshallah, what we're trying to do is to kind of push that forward so that we're better able to help our community.
So it's really a pioneering effort then to bring these two disciplines together. We know that a lot of people in the Muslim community shy away from mental health and say, oh, you just need to pray more or read Quran more. Can you talk to us a little bit about how your conference fits into that mental framework?
Yeah, and that's also part of the reason why we have both imams and physicians on panels. The imams are the ones that have the religious training to be like, it is true that reading Quran can be protective, and having a good, strong connection with your faith can be protective, but that is not the end all of treatment of depression, and that this is it can be a biological manifestation. This is something that requires treatment. And, when it comes from the physician, sometimes it's not as convincing. But when the imam is telling you, if you had a broken arm, there's me telling you to read Quran, yes, it would be helpful. But that is not what you currently need in an emergent situation. You need mental health professional help. And alhamdulillah, we hope that combining the perspective of imams and the physicians and other, allied mental health professionals would be able to help in that area.
Well, I asked a very big question at the end, but now we're out of time. Thank you very much for joining us. We wish you all well with the learning that's coming this weekend. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for watching. If you like what we do, please share, like, and subscribe. Stay safe and God bless.